Good evening, everyone, and a very, very happy welcome. And Pan is here for us. So, Pan just came back from his day at play. Now he's come back home and he says, I want to see that little animation that my teacher sent me. Where am I going to find it? Then came his friend Squeaky Mouse. She said that I have just finished painting, but now I want to sit and listen to that rhyme in my house. Then came the little rabbit. He had just finished the dance class. Now he wanted to sit back and learn all the phonic sounds because he just could not find and remember them. So he didn't know what to do. And then came the little duckling. And she said that I'm really bored. I want a story now. So mommy came in and she looked at Pan and said, just don't worry. I have everything that your teacher sent. I have it recorded and I can play it back for you. I can tell you a story old and I can play one new. I can get the phonic sounds. We can listen to the rhymes and dance around. So Pan and his friends became really happy and said, oh, that is absolutely true. I can learn new things and also old. And they all became really, really happy. And that's what I see as foundation learning recaps when the children have hands-on activities, and those activities can be enhanced with the help of a little bit of digital, resources that can be accessible to children. And because we are on this wonderful platform, which has grown a community in times when we were all not interacting with each other. The whole community grew on a digital platform. It's a big family today. And I'm very, very happy to welcome Tracy, who's the Director Education. And I see her as this young icon to take this whole dream forward. So a very warm welcome, Tracy.
Thank you, Sonia, and good evening to everybody on this forum.
Tracy, while it's your platform, the Square Panda platform, it's also very special when I become a part of families. And so truly, it's like a community which I feel a part of. Not only do I, but you come on one session after the platinum celebration of 75 weeks of interaction. Does that make you feel super special?
Yes, it does. It does. In fact, everything about what the platform does is super special because we actually capitalize on all the talents that is there in the society, right? It's not just about educators, right? You have seen, the diversity in the speakers that you bring to the platform. And that is what education is all about, giving everybody a window, for them to kind of get up, get in, and contribute to the society. So yes, it is a special section for me as well.
No, Tracy, there's a very nice saying. I used to live in Rajasthan, and there is a ceremony where you serve food in a particular way. So the tradition and belief there is that not only is important to serve well, but it's also so beautiful if you receive well.
Right.
So we've been very, very lucky that way that, the whole, way we imagined it has been received so beautifully by so many people.
Absolutely.
Right. So I think that makes it and when we talked about the NEP, we talked about the traditions, we talked about adapting to local traditions. I think each one of these incidents actually reminds us that yes, a tech company that is growing on a modern digital platform is reaching different aspects of the human touch. And that's what makes you an extra special, Tracy. And I want to start with the audience listening to your story, your little journey of, how you started to where you are today.
Right. So, Sonia, I always introduce myself as a teacher because that's where the core is, right? So I began as a teacher, and it was one of the most beautiful experience in my life because I could actually see the impact that I could make to a class of 30, 40 over the years. And, as I, got more acquainted with students, there was this need to kind of go beyond, beyond the classroom and influence a greater number of students that, that can or require quality education. That's where my journey into curriculum development began. And 15 years back, curriculum development was a relatively a very new field, right? And it was more than just creating lesson plans. It was actually designing an entire learning experience for the students, right? Where every little thing had to be meticulously thought about, tried, tested, and then woven into a set of instructional guidelines for the teacher. And that's where it got me think about how much of support the teaching community requires, right? Because everybody has their own strengths, everybody has their own uniqueness. But when you get into the classroom, uh, there are so many things that can work, and likewise, there are so many things that can go wrong. Okay, and the teacher needs to be well prepared, A, on the content, B, on what are the learning outcomes, C, on her own research, and D, on the characteristic of a class, so knowing her learners. There are so many things that come into the entire dynamics of teaching, and we don't think about it, right? And what is it that we can support the teacher with? Can we support her with the content? Yes, we can. Can we support her in understanding the learning outcomes and giving her a set of activities aligned to it? Yes, we can. Okay. Uh, so if these two things are taken care of, the teacher gets her time to research more about the content and spend her time understanding this child. Because even though a curriculum is created, it is planned, how the teacher directs it in a class and how her students respond to it, that is what teaching learning is all about. And that's where um, the whole journey for curriculum development or of curriculum development began. And one thing led to another. We started working off with private schools. The entire the impact population was more like somewhere around 50 to 75,000. And then I kind of did a lot of introspection and thought about, is there a way to kind of extend it to the masses, okay, where it's important to make that difference and where the difference really matters. And that's where my association with Square Panda began. Because if you look at what Square Panda is doing, wanting to take quality education to the masses, where every child, okay, whether the child is in a tier 2 city, in a rural area or a tribal area, gets the benefit of receiving quality content. The teachers receive scaffolded guidance to deliver the quality content. And there is a entire, a mechanism of impact assessment of the learning interventions. So that's all about my journey. And looking ahead, what I do believe that a lot is to be done in education, okay, especially with delivering the right set of content which is contextually relevant to the students. And that is what the journey is all about.
Wonderful. So, I always tell everybody, dream much bigger than you can dream. And so perhaps, Tracy stands as a example for that, that she starts with saying a small number of 75,000, which is also a very, very large community that you've impacted.
Yeah.
So I'm sure it's going to be a super journey ahead. And Tracy, we are getting you on this platform to speak to us at a time when we are moving from the online environment, comfort zone of wearing nice shirts and the pajamas at the bottom, to shifting back to formal, getting ready and running to office. We just, and I think, I've been asked, somehow the other Tracy coming on to the platform has been going, a touch, go, and finally we catch her on the time when we are actually getting these two sides onto parallel tracks How are you viewing this, Jesse, in the sense of two things? One is the ease of getting back into formal working environment. Secondly, how is it going to impact this whole learning process according to you? You know, of course, there's more real prediction, but the learning of the children now suddenly they will have online and offline together. How do you view that?
Yeah, Sonia, it is, we are actually on a cusp of a very important migration, okay, back, because we really, as you said, we really do not know how the situation will unfold. So while, students, teachers are eager to get back to school, what we need to do is to be prepared for another eventuality if there is a lockdown, right? So one is that. There are also a section of students who enjoy the online session because of because they actually have technology at their disposal, right? So they can control the online classes, they can control the video lecture, and everything is consumed, via the electronic mode. So students have begun to enjoy that as well. So I think here what's important is how do we kind of prepare in case there is a lockdown? So then there is no loss of learning, right? Because when we did kind of migrate initially in April 2020 onto the online platform, there was a lot of settling to be done, right? It took a while for everybody in the learning community to get habituated to the virtual environment. And if we start getting comfortable with it, right, we may again need that settling time, maybe not as much as we did earlier, to kind of go back. So the idea is to blend the best of the online and the offline, experience. And what does that mean for the school? The school has to think about how to strike a balance between the two T's. That's the teacher and the technology. What is it that the teacher can do that technology cannot do, and vice versa? Okay, so when it comes to a face to face learning session, yes, a lot of human interaction is something that the students are missing. The peer to peer interaction, where you build social skills, you build important life skills, that is missing. Okay, and this is what a face to face class can take care of. But how do you kind of continue using technology? Is there a way that we can still deliver learning content, via technology, to games, to interactive books? Okay, something that gives a very individualized learning experience to the student. And the face to face experience could be more for learning to social interactions, right? So the whole digital experience that is available for for the other consumerism products, I think has to be brought down into education, where you balance the teacher and the technology and create the best learning experiences. So Sonia, I was doing a lot of reading about the entire digital learning that has happened, and incidentally teachers have grown to be more comfortable now with using digital platform, and this is a global trend, right?
Um, I can back this all the way. So I'm an author for the last about 8 years. We've created the most beautiful digital content for years, right?
Right.
And we used to keep convincing teachers, please use it, please use it, please use it. And they would just ignore it. They would say, yeah, we are okay with it. And when the lockdown happened, Tracy, it was amazing. The first calls that came were that, can you please give us a platform for the digital content?
Right.
Because all this, so imagine as organizations, I can so relate with this. Another thing that I relate see, I've been an early years teacher for now 31 years. We didn't even have Google, okay? We just had hands-on resources. But when I had the chance, somebody gave me a choice, will you take animation or will you take teacher support videos? And I said teacher support videos. And they said, that animation is the in thing. I said teacher support is the needed
thing.
She will animate her class. She will make it so when you said balancing of two T's, it's such a beautiful visual you've created in my mind, Tracy. We've been doing balancing self-learning, and we've been doing it on that T with a pillar and a horizontal line. So that horizontal line today for me, unfortunately, I'm not sitting in a place where I usually take my sessions, but that's always there behind. So all our audience knows it. So that horizontal line of the T is the multiple facets of what Tracy talked about. So the T for Tracy talked about two important T's. And she said technology, she said teacher, and she said multiple things that can happen. Once you've placed it on the top platform, figure out what you need to create that pillar and foundation for your school. I think, so next program, Tracy, I'm going to use the T with all the things that you mentioned. So thank you for giving us that,
Thank you, Sonia, for kind of, illustrating it so well. You actually captured the vision that was running in my mind. And, just to kind of bring a closure to what I said, I think the idea is that teachers should kind of create experiences for the students that is not possible face to face, like virtual learning trips, right? Field trips. Like, there is a restriction of the location that you are in, but through virtual learning trips, you can go anywhere that is required safely, comfortably. Yes, the tactileness of touch and feel may not be there, but the visual bouquet that's available to you is so much to learn from. So teachers need to actually pick up those experiences that are best rendered through a digital mode and supplement that
yes.
with a face-to-face interaction.
Yeah. So I remember when we used to do this, used to be this National Geographic, I mean, for me,
Yes.
it still is one of the most beautifully done channels. And I used to always tell teachers, when you're doing water animals, you just bring, find links, because educationally, you can't claim the link to be yours. That's a technically, but
Yes.
if you give it the claimer, then this is from this, and then use it as uncommercially for a teaching, it's perfectly allowed. So it's
That's
such a
right.
wonderful thing. Balance it, it works beautifully. And now that you talked about experiences, Tracy, I'm going to ask you to give us one experience which you've had in the last couple of months, a journey which would help us to understand the kind of work Square Panda is doing, the kind of relevance, and what touches your heart.
Okay, so I think one of the most recent experience that comes to my mind is a kind of an interaction that I had with the Anganwadi Sevikas at one of our training intervention, and it was just a 2 days intervention. But the Sevikas were there was so much, full of energy, so much full of the entire, the need and the thirst for knowledge, right? And they looked upon learning new things as as something that would not only kind of give them new knowledge, but would help them to transfer that to the students. So during one of my interactions, okay, one of the Anganwadi Sevika, walked up to me and told me, like, Madam Ji, you teach us so many new things, but we need the opportunity to implement that in class. Right? So we do everything. We teach, but we are not considered as teachers. Okay, we help with a lot of midwife related tasks, but we are not considered as nurses. We take care of the entire community, yet we are not social workers. So let us do one thing, that is close to our heart, which is affecting the life of the child well, right? So and the statement was, Madam ji, हमें सिर्फ सिखाना है. We want to make life a better place for the children, and that makes so much of sense, because we always often forget that teachers, the prime or the core responsibility is teaching, right? She has to be with the children, she has to be interacting with them, and anything that takes her away from this, any kind of the so-called documentation work that we give teachers, okay, takes her away from her students. So it is a lot to think about, a lot to ponder about in terms of what is it that we make our teachers do, right? How much of teaching time is available to them, And when I mean teaching time, I don't talk about just active time in the class, but how much of time is available for, to her for her own self growth, right? Where she is not looking at filling up logbooks, filling up the attendance registers, filling up assessment sheets, right? So we really have to look back at how the teachers are using their time purposefully for learning, right?
Tracy, now that you're talking about the logging, the recording, this is actually another very important part of EdTech,
Yes,
which nobody really talks about. We are talking about learning for children,
that's
resources, animation, videos for teachers. So many times we forget to actually remind all organizations that this technology can take away 90% of mundane work from
absolutely,
a teaching process. And that's where I was sold to it.
absolutely.
We had a program on AI, and I asked the person, I said that, Pradyut, you have to tell me, how does it benefit me? Because I was just beginning to understand AI. And he said that, it will take away so many of your routine mundane tasks,
That's
and it
right.
will leave you with more creative work. Plus, not only will it take away your mundane tasks, teachers, it will do your calculations for you, it will do your
Absolutely.
comparisons for you, and forget this year, it will do your comparisons for the last 10 years.
Yeah.
So please look at EdTech. I mean, for me, Tracy, that's been my point to be sold to this change.
And
That
Sonia, you need to
we're
just
going to create for teachers what you said, self-learning time. So whatever mundane I take away, I'm going to give her that extra time to learn.
That's right. And you look at the way technology is advancing. Look at what you can leverage to kind of
Yes.
use it for education. Like for instance, the entire blockchain technology, right? They allow the end users to store and secure records for, and it could be a student's entire life cycle record, right? So the entire manual labor of entering, feeding, what can be easily automatized, okay, can be taken away. And what we're looking at is, moving from a paper-based system to document to a more real-time digital database where data about the student and their learning journey is available to all educators who would come into the student's life cycle, right? So this is what we need to look at technology as being an enabler,
Yes.
right? So
it's not a replacer, because again, the person analyzing is that human teacher or a human source. So that part is there, that will always remain. But another thing, like what Tracy just said, is leveraging. So, for example, as a teacher, I create a whole process for a child, and that's working. Now, I don't have any way to make it reach another teacher. But if I have it on a digital platform, even if I have my resources there, I have my listing there, I have my list of rhymes, stories there. It just is the click of a finger of another teacher sitting 1,000 miles away.
exactly,
So
and then what you build is an entire community of
Community.
collaboration, right? So why do you need to reinvent the wheel? You have lesson plans, you have resources, all created by teachers, available to teachers, right?
On the
So
way.
it goes way beyond just the mundane digital aids that we use.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's what I always tell everybody, that there's this little thread that we build,
Yeah.
and for Tracy, I've got a specially pretty thread. So I'm going to use this, Tracy. I'm right now weaving in everything that you're telling me. So once I roll it on the other side of my weave, I'm going to ask you to take it forward. Right. So another thing that, like you were just talking about, taking things together, collaboration, between organizations, between people working with different levels.
Yeah.
How do you perceive this whole, community of providers coming together?
Oh, I think it's necessary for survival. I think we need to collaborate. And yes, survival. And also, if you want education through learning to thrive in our country, it can only be done when, edtechs come together, collaborate, and to kind of provide the learning solution that is best suited for a child. So I think there's no real competition between even two edtechs that give the same or deal with the same subject, right? Because even at the subject level, the needs are so diverse. So let's look at English. Okay, so when you look at English, you would see that at the foundational level, the need is to build early literacy. So reading, writing, those skills become very important, for early learners and foundational learners. As you move higher into the education spectrum, for the older kids, the ones who are, at the end of the school journey and just about to begin their journey into higher education, communicative English becomes very important, right? Because we need to build the skills of employability. You can't have one solution doing both, right? You need different specific solutions to do that. And that gives the opportunity to kind of have multiple players into the same domain. So we need to understand learning needs are diverse and there is space for everyone here to collaborate and grow. So it has to be more of a synergistic relationship between people because I think it makes no sense of reinventing, as I said, it's no sense reinventing the wheel. We need to see what's available and what more can be done, right? And if
And,
at all,
and perhaps when you collaborate, it's also taking a sense of responsibility.
exactly.
So we made I'm just giving you an observation of the last couple of years of my life. So when schools started growing, there was this whole mushrooming of schools all over. And when then the system started growing, everybody started doing more than the other. Okay, so I'm going to do this. So if you do 1 to 20, I will teach the children 1 to 45.
Right.
Nobody cared whether that 1 to 45 was required. Only the 1 to 20 was required. And in 1 decade, Tracy, we destroyed the way foundation works.
Right.
Each one did 10 numbers extra, 10 letters extra, writing extra, this extra, that extra. And finally, after the end of 1 decade, when we sit down and look back, we just put so much into the bucket which the child could not lift. So when you're saying collaboration and saying that let's do what is needed, I think it's a very, very strong message that goes out for all of us in the education field, whether it's companies, that please don't compete on quantum.
Yes.
If you do this, I'm going to do this. Now that 3-year-old, whether that 3-year-old is wherever in the world, the general journey of, development is similar. Exactly. So don't put so much into a 3-year-old's bucket where it's not relevant anymore to that 3-year-old. So this is a beautiful message, Tracy, and very, very close to my heart because I used to always tell schools, what are we competing for, Finally, that little 3-year-old can't do all this that you're asking him or her to do. So make it, yeah.
And so just to add to that, you will see a trend that most of the edtech companies look at addressing the need of a child who's supposed to be normal, right? A child who's supposed to learn normally like the others. But we have a huge section of students whose learning needs are very different. Maybe because they perceive it differently, maybe because they have an inherent difficulty, a physical challenge, but there are no real solutions developed for these kids, right? We can't create a one size fit all product. And that's where, the diversity of learning population comes in. See, we are gone into inclusion a big way, right? It's actually it's in the very fabric of the NEP. It said don't treat or do not segregate children because they have different educational needs. Mainstream them. But at the same time, edtech companies and content providers should think about how do I tweak my product, change my product to kind of address their needs. As the old adage says, if you cannot, if you cannot teach me if I cannot learn the way you teach me, teach me the way that I can learn. So it's like always putting the child first.
Also, perhaps now that you're mentioning this, Tracy, this is also something which I tell as somebody who's been working with activities for very long. It's not easy to have two types or three types of curriculum or design or
Exactly.
worksheet because it's printed material and it's not easy to do. But the variation that can come in levels of
Exactly.
activities is unending.
Yes.
You
Differentiation is
can,
what.
yeah, you can.
Yeah.
And then you talked about another very important thing you talked right in the beginning was clarity of a learning outcome at every stage. If
Exactly.
I have that learning outcome and I have been supported by, content people who give me that, then I have learning outcomes before and after also.
That's right.
So for a teacher to have this is very important. I also would say it for anybody or the heads of organizations, the team leaders who are watching, please work on the consciousness of learning outcomes and give your teachers not only the learning outcomes of their level of teaching, but before and after, so that if a child is at either more or lesser, the teacher knows that how the activity has to be modified. I think that is so
Absolutely.
important.
Absolutely.
And also ed tech or ed solutions, the technology solutions, as I've seen them, Tracy, I've explored them in the last 2 years beyond what I've ever done in my life before. And I feel if I use this and leverage it correctly, then there are two things that could happen in this whole industry and the growth. One is that my resources, which we talked about, and second is my mapping of the child's growth. If these
That's
two
right.
things I can consciously think. So Tracy is giving us a lot of ideas for schools, for teachers who are already in technology. Don't run with what is your syllabus today. Look at what you can, the whole global expanse of what you can do. I'm going to ask Tracy another question because I'm like a decade plus generation in experience and age, I would say.
Yeah.
But I am working with a lot of young people, Tracy, in especially also the Square Panda team. A lot of young people in technology. Any team, any company that I'm talking to is all got youth around,
That's
young. What? And then at some points of time, I'm adapting. At some points, they are learning. So, what is your opinion of this youthful expanse and experience? If you can just talk a little about it.
Yeah, so it has its own benefits, right? Having a younger, workforce. So the energy levels are very high. Okay, the ideas keep brimming up with, and I like the way they have a solution to every problem. Okay, and it's like in a jiffy they come up with, they know how to remediate it. But somewhere that entire balance of experience and the maturity to guide them on what can be done, what works, where do they need to go back to the drawing board and rethink. I think that is also required. So I'm looking at an entire an entire area of expertise that is needed for education, along with new ideas that need to be explored. If that could converge, so we could have better solutions. So and that is what the Square Panda team is all about. We have this we have a set of people who have just got into education, got into content development, are very hands on onto technology, and it can can kind of tell you what will work in terms of the technology bit. And then you have seasoned teachers who've been there on the field with the students, understand the importance of the different learning paths the students have, will absolutely tell them how they need to kind of balance their approach to what will really work on the field. So I think it's important to have a mix of both, of both the worlds while creating content, because you can never get away from your from subject matter expertise. Okay, similarly it is also important to have the young population, because they they think like the millennials, sorry. So
Yes.
they will tell you what will appeal to a child. They I mean, they are consuming a lot of other content for kids, right? The entertainment content. So they absolutely tell you whether a character, what should a character have, what kind of language or lingo should be used. So I think it's beautiful the way the team synergizes to kind of, create something as simple as even worksheets, right? It doesn't need to be digital,
Yes,
but even
yes, it has
worksheets.
to be everything.
Hmm.
So, like I just have to tell you this little story now that we're talking about the youth is that when Tracy and we were setting up our session in the morning, Tracy's young son came and solved, a backdrop issue in like less than, I think, 5 minutes.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
the one lesson that I take from this whole youthful energy, Tracy, is that they've grown into this. They were born to technology.
Exactly.
I adapted to technology.
Exactly.
It's in their bloodstream.
Bloodstream. And actually that brings us to another point of discussion, is how much of technology is is enough for a child. Okay, and there are so many views on what should be the optimum screen time a child is exposed to. And uh, and there are some sections that are very aversive to technology. But I think what we need to realize that this is going to be the reality of the world that our children grow into. So the idea is not to keep them away from technology, but teach them the skill of using technology correctly, right? So I think that sort of discipline in terms of timing, how much of interaction you are having on, on a platform, whether it's your game or your class. Um, what are you actually using technology for? So what is the content that you are using? So often you will see, students hooked up to YouTube videos that are not very productive for learning. So can we give the right product to our children? I think that's where, the difference lies. About, it's not about how much of technology, but what of technology that we should be discussing.
And like anything else needs discipline in life, so does technology.
Yeah.
That's it. So I was telling somebody a few days back, they said, when this whole thing started, uh, uh, 2020, they said, how are we going to manage this, that? I said, see, we already have so much of backup, yeah? We just have to take it out and use it.
Exactly.
I mean, it's not like this is something new. So anybody who's telling me, we've done a new thing, I tell them, no, we've been doing it for more than a decade. Let's not say it's new. Only thing is you've realized the value today. But anybody with vision was already like like EdTech just didn't appear out of the blue.
Exactly.
It was already growing. Yeah. Only thing is we realized the importance of it. And but Tracy, another very, very important thing that like you're talking about, I can't be averse to technology. And it's proved. It's proved itself. I mean, if we didn't have this, we talk about learning gaps and all, but just imagine if this was not there, what kind of a learning gap we would have seen.
Yes.
It would have been such
That's very true.
And we have little children. I'm dealing with a couple of schools. So this little child who looks at the teacher and says, "Ye school hai." So she doesn't associate the person, but because she's born during this time and she started online. So every time the teacher tells her, "मैं teacher हूँ," so she says, "नहीं तुम school हो." So at least she's acknowledging that. So now of course we are waiting for everything to open up. And I don't see technology going away. I don't see it.
It shouldn't.
I see it as a beautiful enhancement of my professional development, which the NEP is talking about.
That's right.
Because that is going to save me time to travel and learn.
Exactly.
It is going to come to me. And the second thing that's going to come to me, which Tracy said that we must, is the diversity of teams. Today, I'm sure Square Panda has teams all over the country.
Yes.
What does that do for learning and setting up a whole sense of education?
So I think, that's a blessing in disguise that remote working, afforded us. We kind of stopped looking at, restricting people to location. Okay, because initially when we had, physical workspaces, we wanted people to be in workspaces, right? So we did have a very small community to tap from. But the minute we went into the remote working mode, we looked at attracting talent across the country. And we have people coming from not only different states, yes, but different worldviews. And that is so important, right? They come up with different experiences because in every state or every region, the context is very, very different. So what we have here is an entire, I can't call it a global melting pot because, but again, it's a melting pot, a cultural melting pot, if you may call it so, about, what happens in different parts of, our country, and this view, this entire pluralistic view is so important because then you're able to kind of, you're able to kind of plan your activities that would actually address to a majority of learners, right? So even the exchange of ideas is so different, right? Because we see the difference between a curriculum developer who is urban bred and a curriculum developer who is, who's from a very, very small community. Okay, there is a sea of difference, and they actually help us to kind of go back to a drawing board, think about the choice, even choice of words, right? It's so important to kind of use words that are very, very neutral, which is not culturally charged. So I think it's important to have a very mixed team, not only in terms of age, but also in experiences and worldview. It really kind of gives a universal appeal to the content that you are creating.
So that is why you remember I kept asking you all to, spare time to give us your master trainers.
Yes.
Because we had all four of them on our show, and it was so beautiful because each one had their own unique environment they came from. And one of the thing that stole people's heart was Faraz's, Jhole ki library.
Yes.
He said that I used to go with this jhola, and I said, "Oh my God!" And so many people have messaged to me on that. You can't even imagine it. And there was this Antaryami telling them about learning language from the streets. He says, "Go sit on a chai ka dukan and learn the local language." Yes. And then we had, ma'am, Sumati with very, very, very nominal resources. So it has been like a lovely journey to have each one. I've enjoyed each, of uh, the whole process.
Yes.
Now the dhaka is rolled from this side to this side. Now
okay.
it's come. I was talking to you. I have taken the weave from one side of my hand to the other. And Tracy, somewhere around September last year, we had Ashish on the show. So Ashish is, for the new people watching us, he's the one who's brought in, who's the MD for Square Panda in India. And I think I would just call him this man who came in with this crazy heart full of vision. I mean, he had just, the first time when I met him in the office, there was this spark in the eyes that said, I want to reach the heart of India. Right? And I asked him for an adrak wali chai. And the next time when I came, I got my adrak wali chai. So automatically shifting a flavor. When he came, he said that I would just want to reach to the last child who has to learn, and I will build whatever I need to for it. So Tracy, this is that little thread that he had left, which was woven for the last 75 weeks in my small domain. I'm sure the domain was much larger, much bigger.
Yes.
As you all see it and grow it, I see one small part of it. If I have to give you this thread and you take it from me, so where are you going to take this, Tracy? What is your dream and vision for this beautiful country?
So I think it's just an extension to what Ashish did mention that yes, there are many challenges, right, that we have to address, and yes, we are capable of providing a solution for for every challenge. So over the last 75 weeks, what we did realize that while we're looking at creating educational solutions for students, what's important is also to build a sustainable and a supportive environment for students to or for children to kind of live that every experience of learning, right? And while most of the solutions focus on giving content, what we've realized that along with content, we need to also enable all the stakeholders of education. So when I say stakeholders, it's not only stakeholders in school like the teachers and the administration, but also the family and the community, because that's going to keep the entire the entire ecosystem of the child uh, you know uh, fertile with learning, even beyond normal school hours, right? So it says, right, you need an entire village to raise the child.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so you have to kind of take care of that village. You need to kind of have skilling activities for teachers, of course, but we need to, even skill the community to make the ecosystem of the child more supportive. Okay, how can I sustain learning beyond the school? How can I convert my community into learning spaces? What kind of support do they require to do that? Okay, for a parent, how important is to kind of continue learning from home? And again, the parent may not be educated to help the child academically, but what are the academic skills that the parent needs to cultivate in the child? Because for learning to sustain for a long time, for there is this part which is called rigor that is required, and the rigor can only come in if at all we have a more disciplined way of or creating that importance about education and learning every day of a child's life. So I think the vision is now, again remains, much larger now, because we've just kind of added more work to our plate. So we're not really looking at, the teachers and the students, but we're looking at creating that enriched and empowered community to support learning.
And I'll end with just saying that let's not go back and keep reinventing wheels. If I have worked more than 3 decades, there are people who have maybe worked more than 5.
Yeah.
None of us began work so that you would begin where we began. I think our dream was for you all to begin where we are kind of, the thread passing on. So, like your words, let's not keep reinventing the wheel and just keep moving forward. Let's use this wonderful, youthful energy, ideas, thoughts, balance them with what is needed for children and for teachers and for parents, and keep going forward. Tracy, we wish you I wish you all the best from as an individual, as somebody heading a wonderful team, because I do interact with some of your team members, and keep going forward like this and giving our community what we need the most. Thank you so much for being
Thank
with
you.
us.
Thank you for all your best wishes.
Square, square, panda.